I don't know. You can now say you have met a black person that has been to a Klan meeting. And,
Wow.
it's...
Right. And leadership. Where's the leadership?
The opinions of do not necessarily reflect that of
These are all
management.
Are elected to offices that don't realize that you have to govern once you get in here.
Fact.
And B...
I'm your man, 50 grand, Councilman Curtis Jones Jr., Mr. 4th District, Run Kurt Run, and we're here with another episode of Off the Record. And I got really special guests today. I have Denise Clay, and I have Ernest Owens, and these are professionals. They do this for a living. I do this for fun. But let me explain something. We're turning the tables today. I'm interviewing them, and it's no gotcha questions, nothing, who's the baby's daddy kind of questions. But what we are going to do is I'm curious. Sometimes I've been interviewed by both of them, and I really, they have that professional look about them. And they ask you a question, and it's like, do they really believe what and I'm telling them the truth, or do they like me? You can't tell. The roughest interview I ever had was with a lady you may remember, Mary Mason.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I used to go in Mary Mason's studio, and I had two things. I had a bouquet of flowers and a bat. And you know why I had both of them? Because you never knew which Mary Mason you were going to get. She was either going to come at your neck or, compliment you on your work. And I never knew which one it was. And then whenever I found out it was compliment me on the work, I threw the bat away. So that's how it was. So thank you for being on the show. I'm excited. And I'm going to start with what brought you to journalism. And I'm going to go with you.
Well, I was originally supposed to be a lawyer. And I was a journalism major because I was supposed to be in journalism just long enough to raise money to go to law school. But I started dating a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And I figured that whatever they did with the LSAT harmed you mentally for some reason. And I was like, I don't want that. Plus, I got really good at storytelling. And I found that I could make more of a difference in the lives of people by getting their stories out than I ever could defending them or prosecuting them in court. So even though my father, who was a command sergeant major in the Army, really was not enthused initially about his daughter deciding to be a journalist full time. Once he saw my first front page in my first newspaper article, he was like, okay, well, maybe this can work. Maybe she can make a living at this. And then that was it.
And the rest is history. Mm-hmm. Ernest, how'd you wind up here?
Oh, wow. I think for me, it was figuring out what type of impact I wanted to make. So when I first went to Penn for undergrad, I went to high school. I was class president. I was valedictorian. I was, all of the things. And so everyone was like, you're going to run for office. That was initially. So my plan was to be pre-law and study poli-sci at Penn. And so initially my first semester, it was, taking these courses, learning politics, loving government. And, that was what my interest was. But then I really had an opportunity to do a radio show on campus called Earnestly Speaking, which is the same name as my podcast currently, that I was having the opportunity to really, one, I ran for student government at the time. I was involved in all types of these types of political-esque roles in college. And I was like, why do I want this? Because of what other people wanted for me. And I started falling in love with radio. I started falling in love with media. And I started realizing that so much of what I looked at as power was shaped and defined by media. Whoever, controls the media controls everything else. And so I find that journalism and media is really the driving force behind political movements, behind who gets elected, who don't, how we spend our money as an economy. All of that shifted by then. I said, I think that's where I want to be. And so once I explored that, I also realized that the things that I liked about politics or what I wanted to do was have a voice, have an opinion, influence people, get an opportunity to be showy, get a chance to be behind the scenes. I could do all that in journalism, but in a way that allows me to own my own voice and control my own narrative and journey while also making an impact that I can measure. And so it was very quickly that I shift my major from poli-sci to communications, and the rest is history.
They say if you do the thing you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And
Exactly.
journalists, so let me explain to my listeners, they are the fourth leg of the stool of government in this respect.
Yeah.
There's executive branch, there's the legislative branch, there's the judicial branch, and the press.
Yeah, the fourth estate.
The fourth estate, you're right. And what it does is keeps us honest. If there were no reporters that kind of checked and fact-checked and checked again, elected officials, politicians would run amok.
Yeah.
And you guys kind of keep us honest. But let me ask this. What was your best story thus far? Because the best story is still in front of both of you. But thus far, what was the story that, damn, I know I'm that guy or that lady? What was it? I'm going to go with you.
When I was working for a newspaper out in Reading, Pennsylvania, I did this comprehensive look at organized hate groups in the area. And that is still something I'm still really proud of, because I had like a basic understanding. I mean, my family is from Kentucky. If you're from the South, you already kind of know how organized hate groups operate, because they've been operating against you and your family for a long time. So when you come up north and you don't think that this is a problem here, and you find out not only is it a problem, but it's a problem down the street from where you work, and also in the city that, because I'm one of those people that I came to Philly from Fort Dix, New Jersey, to go to Temple, and I never completely left. So to me, Philly is home. Jersey's home, but Philly is home too. And to know that in places like Bridesburg and other places in the city, there are actual organized hate groups operating, I'm like, okay, I need to look into this. I need to figure out what's going on. Then a friend of mine who was working in fair housing for the Berks County Human Relations Commission literally got run out of town by one of these hate groups that were threatening her mixed race daughter, and everything. And they had to leave town because of that. And the reporting I did on that, and especially some of the phone calls I got from people that were angry about it, that to me is still the most important thing I've ever done, because it exposed something that needed to be exposed. And what was weird was when I went to my next job, which was in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, it was something I brought as an expertise in. So whenever something like that came up in, someone's reporting in that newsroom, I was the person they came to and asked about all that. And then I almost inevitably got the question of, okay, you're Black. How are you an expert on organized hate groups? And I'm like, I don't know. You can now say you have met a Black person that has been to a Klan meeting. And
wow,
it's so that's still something that's probably the most important story I've ever done.
So Denise, I remember my first day on Millersville campus, and I went jogging out into the farmland, and I came up a hill, and there was a cross burnt.
Oh, wow.
And I had never, from Philly, never saw that before, so I can relate to what you're saying. What was your headliner number one front page story?
I'm not in newspapers, but I've had, it's hard for me because I got different eras, so I look at things in eras. But I will say two unique ones. One was, because nowadays I don't know front cover story what that even looks like anymore.
That's
but
right.
but
I showed my age.
yeah, no. There's some people that still read in that way. But I would say two big things that I do, because I've broke things before newspapers did. So then I do it, then they all do it afterwards. So I would say this year, I would say start of the year, 76ers Arena. Where were you? Well, you already knew.
Yeah, I knew.
Y'all knew, but then the rest of everybody else found out. And then we had a press conference that we had to change because of that. So when I broke the news to the public
Still suffering from
and beat everybody to it, to me, that was my favorite story this year because it confirmed something I knew, that we don't have to wait for the Inquirer or this place or that place to do it. Like, literally, they had to wait to get the detail. They were just like, how did he? Because it just showed the truth of the talent, the journalist, not the group. Everyone always used to put their validity behind a brand. Like, oh, the Inquirer, we have to wait for the Inquirer. Someone said, no, Ernest said it. And that probably might be my favorite thing this year because it reset everything to me about storytelling, news reporting, is that we need to go back to the source. We need to go back to the people because those are the people that make the stories. The news, the newsrooms don't make the stories. It's the actual journalists that do. Whether you're working with a team or you're at a company or not, you can do it. So that was reassuring to me. So that was one of my favorites. But then also one of my just iconic, just for various reasons, personal, private, was when I revealed and broke the news about Helen Gim being at the Union League. I think that was probably for me because there was so much there. The day that she gets endorsed by the working family.
How did you find that out?
Because of trust. People come to you. I will never reveal my source, but what I will tell you is...
You should get a T-shirt.
What I will tell you is that it is not a major politician or public figure. It was someone who was there, who's seen them there, an everyday person, I would say, that was like, follow my Instagram and seeing me cover the race. And they were like, hey, you know this woman? And I said, do I? Where did you get this? It's like, I'm here right now, and they're here. I said, right now? They're here right now. They didn't even really know who the person was. They knew they were someone important, but they just was like, remember me talking about them and sharing articles and covering the election. And I said, I remember going to my team, I was like, hey, this is her, because this is exactly what she wore outside the Cato statue earlier this day. So we matched the timeline. Basically, the outfit that she wore, it was the same day she got endorsed by the Working Families Party.
She never wore things twice.
No.
You could timestamp it.
No, Jimmy Choo's at all. She was a great dresser. But I just remember that outfit, and I was just like, huh. And I remember that night, she was saying something in her line. I said, is this you? And then she responded, she apologized. She actually apologized. And so everything that came from that, I think that was a major inflection point for her race. I think there was a lot of reasons why she lost, but I think in many ways that became a staple in a conversation that continues to be in her life. And so the fact that I was a part of that moment, that definitely is a story that, that could have changed. That story wouldn't have happened. We would have had a different conversation, I think. Maybe it could have been a different election. I won't say single-handedly. It may have changed it. Could have played a different point. Because for some people that was on the fence, I think that was their out to say, well, she did this. And her supporters could not really excuse that. Because
it's hard to recover from that.
Yeah, that was a hard one because she protested against the Union League. She was one of the people that told other people to protest.
And they're loving the desserts. I'm sorry, Helen, if you're seeing this, I apologize.
I personally still want to see the $200 cheese plate that got Seth Williams locked up from the Union League.
Yeah, that's
it's not that exciting, the cheese plate.
Yeah, but it's just when I was covering that trial, and they were breaking down the party that he allegedly had for his girlfriend on campaign finance funds that he wasn't supposed to be using. And sometimes when I'm covering a trial, to keep myself from falling asleep in the middle of it, I focus on the silliest thing I can think to focus on to kind of keep me interested. And in that particular trial, it was the cheese plate. And I'm like, what does $200 worth of cheese look like? Is it imported? Do they make it in the back? Does it include like fruit jams and caviar?
They probably
stuff?
put some fees on it because of the fact that probably it wasn't on the list initially. You
Mm-hmm.
asked on the last minute,
Mm-hmm.
they probably juiced up the price. It was probably $100, which is still a little
Which is still a
excessive.
little crazy for cheese.
It is.
But
We're gonna move off of cheese. I'm gonna ask you another question. You see how I did that? I think that was almost like he would do. All right, so here's what I want to ask you.
Close.
Hey, it wasn't bad. Give me your perspective of what's going on at the federal, state, local level.
Ooh.
Isn't that a good one?
Well, okay. Are you talking about in regards to?
Politics.
Yeah, I know politics, but like to
Whatever.
our city, because there's a different response there. So I would say for me, federal chaos. No one knows what they're doing over there. It's organized chaos because there is someone who knows what he's doing, but the rest of everybody involved are just playing it by the numbers, including his sycophants.
Nice one.
State level, I would say passiveness. There's a lot of passiveness that's happening on the state level. People are being passive. The governor of Pennsylvania, in my opinion, is being very passive. He's one moment he said this is not a place for hate, but then he's raising the flag for Charlie Kirk and telling us to honor his legacy. That's what his press release said, honor. It's one thing to say, look, you want to pay your respect, whatever, but you're saying honor. What are we honoring, right? And so you got that going on. And then on the local level, cowardice. We got cowardice.
No amens from the audience.
So we got a bunch of levels here of chaos, organized chaos on the federal level, passiveness on the state level, cowardice on the local level. I think not everybody, clearly not everybody. Do I gotta say not everybody all the time? Not all. Fine, right? But there are a lot of people who I think do not know where their spine is and their backbone is. And I'm not talking just about the mayor's office. I'm talking about across the board, just over the past 2 years, there's been a lot of cowardice on the local level. People that know better, that is not doing better. People who are asking for positions of influence, but then once they get there, not fully influencing. Right. And leadership. Where's the leadership?
The opinions of do not necessarily reflect that of
These are
management.
all my opinions. I'm the guest.
I think that what we're seeing now on all three levels of government is what happens when people don't pay attention in civics class.
That's fair.
Because you have a lot of people, and I sit and listen to public comment is my favorite part of every council meeting. I'm just going to come right
Really?
out
It would
and tell
be.
you that.
Oh my God.
Because
I like the end.
because you never know what's going to come out of most of these people's mouths. You have some people. There's one woman in particular that comes on every week, and she is so incredibly racist that I sometimes have to
her?
stop
Yeah,
myself. I sometimes have to stop myself from taking off my Doc Martin and throwing it at her head. And the thing is, where I sit, I got a clear shot. So I have to stop myself from doing that. But when people come into council, just like when people come into Congress or even on the state level, you have a whole bunch of people who are elected to offices that don't realize that you have to govern once you get in here,
Facts.
and B, don't realize what their specific power is. Like, for example,
That's
on
right.
the federal level, you have the legislative branch is pretty much letting the executive branch do a whole lot of stuff that it's not allowed to do.
Yes.
All the money clawbacks that Trump has done, that is all technically illegal.
It is.
Because once the legislature says, because they're the power of the purse, once the legislature says, this is what I'm giving and this is where it's going
That's
to,
what it is.
you don't have the right to come back and say,
Right.
I want that money back. And if you had a Congress that wasn't so terrified of like January 6th, the sequel, this time it's personal, you might find folks that are saying, okay, you're not supposed to do that. We're going to give that money back to the people who we gave it to initially. And you're going to remember you're the executive branch, not the legislative branch. But then again, you have the judicial branch that's pretty much letting the executive branch run amok. And if you've ever needed an argument for term limits for Supreme Court, you are seeing it in real time right now.
Yeah, we don't need to extend the courts. We need to term limit it.
You need
Yeah.
to term limit it.
Yeah, they want to expand the courts. I'm like, expand the courts? No, we need to term limit the courts.
No, I mean, you need to get some of those folks who have been there long enough. Clarence Thomas all by himself needs to
you
go.
took the words right out of my mouth.
But
Alito as well.
But you have that going on federally. Then on the state level, you have people, and I have talked to some of these people who came into the state legislature with no intent to actually govern.
Yes.
They came into the state legislature just to muck stuff up. And they have been largely successful at it. That is why you have a time where we do not have a budget at a time where you have people who really need for the state to have its act together, because come November 1st, there's a whole lot of people who are going to be wondering, how am I going to buy food?
Right.
So now, on that, good point. You didn't get the city, though.
Yeah.
I'm headed there.
Okay.
And then
hold this thought. What happens after November 1st? That's the next question.
Nothing.
Well, probably the main thing that happens in November.
No, I want you finish your city part. Though.
Right. And you have that, and the city is not going to be able to absorb all of those folks who are hungry and in need of help. But then again, you have some of the stuff that the city spends money on that you really could have waited another time to spend that money on this particular thing.
Well,
I really think that the folks in council are a lot more patient than I would be with some of the stuff that the mayor's office comes in with. If you're going to ask me over 2 years for a grand total of $1 million and you can't tell me exactly what you're going to do with that money, you come in with no plan. I ask you questions. You can't answer them. You tell me you're going to get back to me, or you're going to give it to me and send it to me in another way, or whatever.
You got my viewers and clapping and snapping.
Right, but I will.
Y'all kicking
but
it.
I will say this about November 1st is that let's not act like the city, as far as city council, that they're victims here to the mayor.
Oh, they're not.
They've chosen it. It's a performance, and it's a lot of performing that we're seeing here. We're seeing a lot of performing from city council members. We see a lot of performing from the mayor. We see a lot of performing from the state. Because what happens is they play the blame game when the people still get screwed over. So this is what they do, the hot potato thing. Oh, the state do that. No, that's the city's job. They do that with everything. They do it with education. They do it with funding. They do it with Trump. They do it like whose job is it? And no one's stepping up to say, I don't care whose job is it. Here's where I stand. Here's what I want. Because they're all playing those games. And so the problem is there's a lot of backdoor deals. And I've been talking about this for years, right? There's all these backdoor deals. I'm going to say something very frank, but it's the truth. If they can't even handle the leader of their own city party who continues to be there for a long time, how do you expect them to be able to handle any leaders outside of that? The
opinions that are expressed are not necessarily management.
Right, of course. No, but of course, you know, like you got Bob Brady there, and everybody behind the doors, oh, Bob Brady, da, 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 da. That's who you all keep in power to run the party. So if you got leadership like that, that's not really, creating a better, it's so much infighting. They're fighting each other. Everybody's fighting each other within council for various reasons, some legit, some are not. So you got that infighting happening. It's high school. It's Vanity Fair. And it's all happening at a time where everybody else is starving in crisis. And then they wonder why people don't care to go to the polls. Because what are they voting for? What are they voting for? Like, what are they actually voting for? And then it's crazy because we see all these individual folks in the community that are creating nonprofits and other organizations to do services and jobs that the government should be doing. Which makes me ask the question, why am I using my taxpayers' dollars to pay y'all salaries when I would rather give the money to mutual aid to support these groups as more direct service to me? And then you got city council people competing against community groups. And we don't know who the state rep is. Where they're doing services that really should be state reps or city people, but it's now being done by individual groups. And then whenever something is super successful, then that's when they want to show up and take credit. That's when they want to cut the ribbons. That's when they want to act like they're doing it. But it's like, if you actually knew your lane, did your job, then you wouldn't have all these clashings. I don't really know who runs the city at this point. Oh, I know who runs the city. The person who runs the city is not an elected official. The person who runs the city does not live in Philadelphia County. The person who runs the city runs labor, runs everything else. And the reality is that when you know who really runs the city, then those are the people that they answer to, because those are the people that you all answer to. But who you all should be answering to is the people that elect you, the people. And that's what we lost sight of, the people. So November 1st, to answer your question, nothing's changing on November 1st unless certain people tell you it matters. So if Ryan Boyer tells you all to care about food, then you'll care about food. If Ryan Boyer
Tell us
tells
how you
us,
really feel.
yes, because it's true. If Brian Roberts tells you that you all need to prioritize food, you all will prioritize food. So I don't even talk to elected officials like that anymore. I go talk to them more. I say, what do you feel? Because however you feel is how they're going to feel. You have people that is stopping elected officials from coming to press conferences that involves the deaths of people in our communities because they don't like that particular politician. They don't agree with that politician, so they don't want to see you all standing next to them, even though that is the proper order of things. When there is a death in a community, you go with the police commissioner and the district attorney. And even if you don't like that district attorney or that person for your own personal politics, you're supposed to show up for these families. And when I'm hearing that people are getting phone calls from people that's not their council president or not their elected official, telling them how to act and move in certain rooms and spaces on behalf of the people, that's a problem.
For the record, that ain't me. So
No,
I'm
it's
gonna ask.
not.
I'm gonna ask.
But you got colleagues.
I got a break. Man, he was rolling and we were rolling. Welcome back to Off the Record. I'm going to ask you both now to raise your right hand. Come on, work with me. And the power that is not invested in me, I'm swearing you in as city council people for the next 3 minutes.
All right.
And you get to introduce one law, public policy that you want implemented. Go.
Okay, probably the policy I would like to see implemented is that you can't, oh gosh, that's a hard one. Because there's so many. I look at, the stuff that goes on in council and I'm like, why is this not this instead of this? It would probably be something regarding education, specifically that you can't close a school in a neighborhood where where there are already closed schools, because the one thing because I've been writing a lot about gun violence in addition to my council work and stuff. The one thing that we're all starting to notice is that when we look at gun violence, we don't always look at it from the perspective of what the cause is. We look at all the symptoms.
Right.
And one of those causes is disinvestment. And there is no bigger form of disinvestment than closing a school. And if I were a council person for a day, I would mandate that the school district talk to us about what's going on in our neighborhoods before you just go closing more schools, because we don't necessarily have the kind of money that would be needed to, deal with some of the consequences of this particular level of disinvestment.
They're getting ready to release their master plan on population shifts and school closures. Pay attention.
Oh, I will.
Easy for me.
Councilman.
Correct. Thank you. Term limits, 3 terms. Three. That's it. Anybody who is in city council, they will have up to 3 terms to serve. That is it. That is the maximum. That is it. we had term limits, I think a lot of things would change across the entire landscape of Philly politics. I think there have been some people who've stayed way too long. And I also think that there are people who feel like they have to stay long because there is no succession plan. And so I think I would say a maximum of 3 4-year terms. That is it in city council.
Something Derek Green proposed a while ago.
Yes.
All right, last question. If you were like a starting five in basketball, but exclude me, I cannot play on this team. Who are your top 5 all-time council people that you covered that you think added value to the body?
Mm.
Maria
Five.
Maria Quinones Sanchez. She really did not get the respect that she deserved. I would have to go with Wilson Good Jr. If if it was a poverty issue, he was on top of it. Um, Daryl Clark, oddly enough, for the same reason. Um, Catherine Gilmore Richardson, because she is going to be running the city one of these days. You heard it here first. And probably the last person on my starting 5 would be Kendra Brooks. And I say Kendra Brooks because I met her when I was still covering education more so than government. And this was a woman who, despite the fact that she was not actually in power in terms of education, she was always there. She was always pushing, always making sure that whatever kids in the city, in the school district of Philadelphia needed, they at least had a shot at getting. So that's my starting 5.
Not a bad starting 5. And I must admit, Kendra is, and I'm going to say this, please forgive me, colleagues, she's the most genuine person in city council. She is what she is.
That's what you get.
That's what you get. Who's your starting 5?
No particular order. Daryl Clark, because I just miss his leadership and direction in the city council presidency seat. It's very well missed. I think Daryl Clark for sure. Number 2, Derek Green. Just a man who is so smart, gets things done, understood what it means to be an at-large city council member. There's some city council members that's at-large, but they act like they want to run a district. I'm just saying, they act like they want to run a district. He's at-large. He's Mr. At-large. So he's definitely on there. Kendra Brooks, because one, she's not a Democrat, and she actually was able to come in as a third-party candidate, get Republicans who were just taking up space, and really get some things done. So definitely Kendra for sure. Yes, I said Daryl Clark, I said Derek, I said Kendra. Ooh. Do I want people I don't really know if I want people that's currently in office. I'm kind of.
They don't have to.
They don't have to be, because I don't know if I want all people currently in office, because I feel like it'll get real messy. I say Kendra because Kendra's not in the 5, because everybody else will start feeling some type of way. I don't got time for it, and I don't want her people's. I don't care, but Maria was definitely somebody who was courageous. The soda tax situation will forever, her taking that stand the way she did with that, I will have a lot of respect for that, and kudos to her. And then someone who I don't know and didn't live to see was John C. Anderson.
He lived in my district.
Because, I mean, I think we all know he's gay, and I'm gay, and he to me is the first, but he wasn't out. Rue is the first to be out. But John Sanderson, I think, plays a major role in everything like that. I would say he is somebody that just his story, his connections, you wouldn't have certain people without him. So I would put him on that list if he was on my team, because I'm going, yeah, that's how I keep it cool, right? Mm-hmm. And then, somebody who is an elected official that I always look up to is Bowser. Yeah, he ran for mayor. Yeah, he is somebody that I, like, that's who is my, like, North Star when I think of people who made an impact, that had influence, but had influence in a good way. And, you know, there's people who are not elected that have a lot of influence, but they sometimes make a lot of missteps that I don't agree with. That I feel like, okay, you got this influence. You're good in some cases, but in some cases, you're a little too much. Bowser, I just felt like should have been the mayor of Philly. I think he was a genius. I think he, to me, embodies, you know, what we really want. We need a Bowser right now. We don't have that right now.
That's an interesting perspective because I knew him.
Yeah.
And he was dogmatic about what he believed in, and he was smart and he had a heart.
Right.
A lot of people either have one or the other. He had both.
Yeah.
So he was pretty cool. So, man, thank you.
You're welcome.
Man, I'm getting good ratings now. You guys really did a really good job. Thank you. And I look forward to being on both of your shows.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
You can definitely be on the record.
On the record.
We
Yeah.
off the record
You're off
right
the
now,
record.
but you can be on the record,
There
you know,
you go.
on WRD. Thank you.
They never clap.